Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto solved the Millennium puzzle. A boy forgotten and disowned by his family, an ancient secret buried by the sands of time. Now that he is about to awaken, bringing to light ancient secrets and a lost evil, the struggle of the divinities is about to unleash in the ninja lands. Kin, the chosen one, chosen by fate to be able to save everyone from the return of the shadows and the evil that commands it. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 1, The King's Heir. In the dunes of Suna, a team of archaeologists entered the burning sands in the Land of Wind. Here they set out an investigation in hopes of discovering a potential lost civilization. One much older than the era of the Sage of Six Paths. After rumors among rumors and evidence jumbled within lies from the truth. Understanding the risk both physically and financially, the archaeologists had hired a group of Konoha in as protection, as Suna had forbid these travelers from seeking out anything among their land. Konoha knew the risks as well, but in a unanimous vote among the council, elders, and Hokage himself, an elite team was organized and sent to protect them, in hopes that they can benefit from this research as well. Ever since Kumo had gotten their hands on most of the items belonging to the Sage of Six Paths, they've felt the need to grow stronger as well. Seeing as the civilization that was being researched was older than the Sage, Konoha could only drool at the idea of something stronger or equivalent to chakra. One can only hope. After days of searching, the team found their way to a tomb. Sadly, nothing great comes without sacrifice. As time progressed, several Konoha along with a few of the helpers that arrived with the researchers were killed by many traps. Some rather quick and disturbing, such as swinging pendulums, pits-filled spikes, and several poisonous senbon traps. Then there were the few slower and much more painful traps, which included rooms where rooms would close in each other and floors that would break and lead to seemingly endless pits. As difficult as the journey was, it was also very long, as it had taken the team nearly 2 weeks to search tomb. When they had arrived near the end, that's when they ran into strange hieroglyphics that were practically impossible to decipher, as the symbols were strange and the images they made out didn't make sense. Then there was this strange mural of two people commanding a strangely dressed man with a staff and some sort of lizard with wings. Continuing their way down the path, they arrived at the site of a strange-looking stone in the shape of a sarcophagus. Upon closer inspection, the archaeologists could see strange tools or items synced into stone. One of the Konoha ninja decided to get curious and reached for an item. "Get back, you fool! You might damage them, or worse, trigger a life-threatening trap," yelled one of the archaeologists. "It is Konoha's benefit to take whatever you find," said the shinobi, lacking any real emotion in their voice. "You idiot, would you really put aside your own well-being for the sake of your village?" he asked. "To Danzo-sama, if we all die and the result ends with Konoha becoming victorious, then yes, my life matters very little," the nin said. The archaeologist was unable to reach out and pull them out, as the rogue shinobi grabbed an item, trying to pull it out only to trigger an earthquake. "You shouldn't touch things that don't belong to you. Nor should you trespass in other lands. Turn back and perhaps what is left of you will survive the trip back," said a threatening voice. "I do not fear your threats," yelled the same nin. "Very well, you said your life matters very little. Let us put that to the test," yelled the voice as the whole tomb began to shake. "You fool! Your egotism and pride has endangered us all," yelled the man. The rogue nin was about to retort when suddenly they heard a loud screech. He turned to see a blue dragon grab him by the shoulders and toss him into the wall. The other Konoha ninja prepared themselves as the dragon swept back down. "Fire style, Phoenix Flower Jutsu," yelled another one of the nin at the dragon. The blue dragon dodged it, and suddenly a bone-like creature made its appearance. Screeching, it began to breathe fire on some of the nins, leaving only 3 to dodge out of the way. Taking their chances and leaving, the archaeologists made a run for it, only to run into another skeleton-like creature. It made a loud screech as well and started pouring energy into its palms. The researchers attempted to make a run for it, only for the skeleton to fire a ball of lightning at them, killing them in the process. Seeing this, the remaining shinobi knew the mission was a failure, with the client dead. As 2 of them ran with their tails between their legs, one stayed behind and ran towards the stone sarcophagus. Being desperate, he attempted to remove the artifacts. He jammed his kunai to force one to come out. That's when suddenly, they were pushed by a mysterious force. Looking back, a man in a purple outfit holding a green scepter appeared. It was likely this man was some sort of guardian. Earth style, mud dragon jutsu. He yelled only for the guardian to raise his palm, making the dragon fall apart before reaching him. Earth style, golem. Suddenly a large brute-like creature appeared and charged the guardian, only to be destroyed by dark energy released by the scepter. The man was getting desperate and ran straight at him, tossing several kunai and shuriken. The guardian stood still as another man riding a horse carrying a red javelin appeared, skewering the man with his lance. Not taking his chances, the guardian used his scepter and destroyed the body, giving the shinobi an agonizing death. The guardian looked at the horse rider and nodded as they both left the room filled with artifacts. Outside, the remaining shinobi narrowly escaped with their lives. Turning back, they could see the entire tomb crumbling right behind them. One of them groaned in annoyance that the mission was both a failure and now they couldn't get their hands on any of those artifacts. However, their complaining had to be put on hold as they could hear screaming in the distance. Running back to their excavation/campsite, they returned to a shocking sight. The whole camp filled with researchers, workers, and some of their fellow shinobi were being killed by more creatures. We have to escape. We need to tell Hokage-sama what happened here today. There's no way these things should be allowed to exist, said one of them. Hell, how did I get wrapped in this? Asked the other one. Then suddenly, their heart stopped as they saw a large shadow on the ground. Looking up, they could see a winged creature. However, it was gigantic and had an odd color. It wasn't some bird like a crow, pigeon, or your typical vulture. No, this thing was horrifying. It was white, and if you had amazing eyesight, you could see its beady blue eyes. After that you'd be dead because you wouldn't be able to escape the giant blue ball of lightning it fired from its mouth. The remaining two Konoha shinobi learned that the hard way. Some time later, when the chaos had ended, there was no sign of what caused the destruction or where the inhabitants went, as almost no bodies were found. The ones that were found, were considered to have been killed by natural causes by the desert. The tomb was left buried along with all of its secrets, never to meet the gaze of man ever again. However, that didn't mean its secrets would be forgotten or never seen again. The treasures that were left inside were scattered to the edges of the nations, leaving only one behind. What is this? Some kind of toy? Asked a looter. As his group looted what was left of the archaeologist's camp, he picked up what appeared to be pieces of a broken object. Whatever it was, it's either broken or meant to be put back together. I don't have time to figure this out. Maybe I can pawn it off, said the man to himself, picking up the broken remains of a pyramid-shaped object with an eye on the center. Thus the journey for the puzzle's new master began. Years later, among the streets of Konoha came a cloaked man with whose face and mouth remained covered. He arrived at the village of Konoha to sell his wares with his small caravan. From the looks of it, he saw there was a festival going on, making it a perfect time to sell. Rubbing his hands together, he quickly went through the gate inspection and led his wares inside and placed them in an open spot just outside where people were celebrating. As he prepared, he could see the people enjoying themselves and looking around, staring at all the other vendors. This stranger had to work quickly if he wanted to make a profit. Setting up his stall quickly, he saw a young boy looking down with his hands in his pockets. This child could be no older than 6 or maybe 7. A perfect sucker to sell to. Young child, what makes is the reason for you looking down and not up? He asked, sounding like a sage to catch interest. After all, it is suckers like children who get fooled by those who sound like wise men. No reason, I'm just alone, the boy said, revealing his blue eyes. There is a festival going on, should you not be celebrating with your friends? He asked. I don't have friends. All the adults tell their kids to stay away from and they encourage them bully me, he said sadly. Okay, maybe this village is a lot more hostile than it looks. Forget it, I might be able to scam this brat, the man thought evilly. Young child, what would you say if I had the tool to help you earn friends? That it would make you so popular, parents would demand you to bully their children, he asked, holding in his laugh. Really? You have something to make all the glares go away. The man nodded. Something for me to help get friends. The man nodded again, to make the people stop beating me. The man froze for a moment. Who exactly beats you? The man asked, feeling some concern. Everyone except a few people like the ramen chef, my Dr. Fonda-chan, and the nice police officer Trudge-san. The boy said. Oh, okay, would you like this tool or not? The man asked, hoping he doesn't get mixed up into some shady business. Yeah, I'll take it. How much? He asked eagerly. How much are you offering? The man asked, seeing how much he can extort from the child. The child dug into his pocket, pulling out a few hundred ryu. I can give you this much. I have to sacrifice my ramen for tonight, but it won't matter if I have lots of friends. He said optimistically. The man nodded. Yes, this will do. He said. Okay, this is enough to pay for a meal and maybe a night in the hotel. Now what do I give to this brat? The man wondered. After a few minutes of searching, he dug through all his junk in hopes of finding something useless worth little value. However, looking back, he saw the boy waiting patiently with a smile. Giving the boy a nice smile, the man rapidly dug through everything until he heard something break. Picking up a bag, he thought he broke something valuable until he found that toy puzzle some man pawned off to him. Looking over it again, it looked nice, but it was old and a man like him had no need for it. Besides, he hasn't been able to sell it back after realizing it wasn't real gold. Maybe this could be the tool the child could forge friendships with. Here, my boy, after a long search I have found the tool you need to charm others. The man lied, not that the boy would notice. The boy had hope in his eyes and quickly handed the man his money. The man chuckled to himself and handed him the bag. Naruto opened the bag, revealing several broken fragments. What is it? Naruto asked curiously. It's a puzzle. It will grant you guidance and knowledge, along with courage and the skills needed to forge bonds. The man said, trying to come up with something. Okay, so if I solve this puzzle I will have a lot of friends. The man nodded. Thank you, mister. The boy cheered. The man waved him off. What a loon, I wonder what motivates others to beat him up. Whatever it is, he probably did something to deserve it. The man thought. With the boy. The boy ran to a secluded spot in the park and sat by a tree, dropping all of his pieces. Feeling anxious, he quickly looked over what was partially built. Seeing it made some kind of triangular shape, the boy took it apart completely, hoping the magic works if he does it by himself. Much time passed and the boy had solved most of the puzzle, making it turn into an inverted pyramid. Having almost finished, he noticed one part was missing and dug through the bag. After searching for what felt like an hour, the final piece fell out. Smiling happily, the child took the piece with an accessory in the shape of an eye and placed it on. That's when suddenly the puzzle began to glow. It started to shake and enveloped the boy in a cloud of darkness. The puzzle. Open your eyes, child. The boy did as he was told and found himself in a strange room similar to one found inside a real Egyptian pyramid. Who's there? The boy asked. Behind you. The boy turned around and was greeted with the sight of a tan-skinned man with purple eyes, long spiked blonde hair with a purple outline. Who are you? Asked the boy nervously. The man smiled. It is customary for one to introduce themselves before asking for another's name. He said. My name is Naruto. The boy replied. I am the Pharaoh, the spirit inside of the Millennium puzzle. Said the Pharaoh. The Millennium what? Naruto asked. The Millennium puzzle, a sacred artifact created during my father's era when he ruled the kingdom of Egypt. It is one of 7 and they all have great power. The Pharaoh explained. Does it have the power to help me make friends? This caught the Pharaoh off guard. What do you mean by that? Asked the Pharaoh. The masked man who sold me the puzzle said it was a tool that will help me make friends. Nobody likes me, so I thought it was magical and it could help me be accepted. Explained Naruto. The man took the time to register the boy's words. Naruto, that man scammed you. What? He was clearly a con artist that did his work by stealing your money and trading it for something of no value to you. Answered the Pharaoh. But. Naruto started to tear up. He looked up to see the pharaoh place a hand on his shoulder. "Do not weep, Naruto. For you should rejoice that someone as kind-hearted and honest as yourself had taken the possession of the Millennium puzzle. Who knows what deranged villain could have gotten their hands on it?" said the pharaoh. "What's so important about the puzzle that I have it?" Naruto asked. "Why tell you when I can show you?" he asked with a smile. Then suddenly both were engulfed by a bright light. Naruto found himself in the kingdom of Egypt watching as history went on. From the days of the former pharaoh Akhenaten seeing the creation of the Millennium items to the final battle between Zork and the Egyptian gods. He could see everything that the pharaoh had lived through, including his experiences and rise to strength. The power of friendship and the bonds between himself and the monsters he summoned. A strange concept the pharaoh called the heart of the cards. These bonds are what made him strong. It wasn't about his title, his privilege, or lineage, it was about the bonds he forged himself and the courage to become a leader. However, with the good there come evil. That's when a thief known as Bakura attempted to steal the Millennium items and plunge the world into darkness. The thief became a demonic creature known as Zork and was so powerful that it was immune to the defenses not only comprised of basic weapons such as spears, arrows and catapults, but the ability to summon creatures as well using a strange device known as disowned. A strange sealing technique where the user gives up part of their life force to summon their assigned creatures. The main defense force composed by the pharaoh himself, the sacred guardians, who all wore the Millennium items, were unable to defeat the invulnerable Goliath. So in turn they called upon a forbidden powerful monster they split into 5 tablets in hopes of defeating Zork, Exodia. Sadly Zork was able to defeat the unstable guardian, sending it back to where it was once sealed away. That's when the pharaoh was forced to call on something even more powerful than Exodia itself, the 3 Egyptian gods. Slifer the sky dragon. The winged dragon of Ra. And Obelisk the tormentor. The 3 united and became the creator of light, defeating Zork and saving Egypt. Thus time passed and peace was restored. However, there would be a prophecy that one day the pharaoh would return to stop. The time comes for the pharaoh to come for them. Returning back, Naruto found himself standing in front of the pharaoh again. "Now that you understand the importance of the puzzle, do you understand why it had chosen you?" the pharaoh asked. "No, I get I'm not like the bad guys, but why me? I'm just a kid nobody likes. I'm not strong, I can't fight, and not even my own parents acknowledge me," Naruto answered sadly. "Naruto, you may not have been born a king, raised with the same privilege as others, or be able to make the mountains move to your every whim, but that does not mean you can't reach greatness," said the pharaoh. "How can someone of your stature believe in me?" Naruto asked in denial. "Heroes aren't always born. With the proper encouragement, you may one day surpass someone such as the likes of me," the pharaoh said with smile. "How do I do that?" Naruto asked, feeling some interest. "Allow me to help with that," the pharaoh answered. Outside, several drunken shinobi can be seen stumbling around until they see Naruto passed out with the puzzle in hand. "Hey, looky here, it's the demon. Looks like he got himself a toy. Probably stole it. Doesn't matter, let's put him in his place." The group agreed and walked up to the boy and tried to rip away the puzzle, only to feel his hands glued to it. "Hey, the dumb brat won't let go of it." "Forget it, let's kick his ass," another said. "Don't bother, let's finish him," said one of them, forming hand seals. Just before their fun could start, Naruto's eyes opened wide as a yellow glowing eye appeared on his forehead. "Ugio!" he yelled, and suddenly the was surrounded by a whirlwind. The shinobi thought it was the work of the demon and prompted to take out their kunai. Naruto, however, stood taller by about a half a foot, with his hair slightly longer, revealing a purple outline, eyes slowly turning from blue to purple. "Kill him before he finishes transforming," one of them yelled, dashing at him with a kunai. Naruto kept his hands on the puzzle and closed his eyes before reopening them, causing a gust of wind to push them all away. The group quickly recovered, only to see a floating man wearing a purple outfit with a green scepter. "Dark magician, use dark magic attack," Naruto commanded with a now deeper voice. The figure known as the Dark Magician fired a dark beam from his scepter, knocking most of them out. A couple survived and began to open fire with fireball jutsus, only for the magician to jump in the way and push them back with a gust of wind by sticking out his palm. Suddenly, Naruto felt paralyzed as he looked to see an older man with a pineapple-shaped haircut. Shadow possession success, he said smirking. Then suddenly a blonde girl in a blue and pink outfit similar to the dark magician appeared. She looked at him in curiosity. Can I help you? The man asked. The girl did a closed-eye smile and nodded. The man raised an eyebrow until making an expression of sheer terror as the girl lifted her own scepter up and started to beat him half to death with it, to the point where he was curled up trying to block the scepter. This was rather hilarious to watch until it got boring. Having enough, Naruto gestured for his magician to stop her. The dark magician slowly walked up to her and grabbed her scepter before shaking his finger making her pout. The girl gently put her scepter down, but not before quickly kicking the man while he was down making dark magician frown. Good work.